That's the relevance of that. Just for your information, this is our first heating of the iridium. This is when the differential thermal analysis says that the phase change occurs. At 400 degrees, you can see that the phase change starts, and the phase change finishes by, what, 750, nearly 800 degrees. And you can see right here, at the same temperature, you see the hiccup start. That's when the phase change starts, and when the phase change is completed, it's down here. So this is indicative of a phase change occurring in the material that causes it to go from here down to here. That's all that's important about that. But for a technical person who understands the instrumentation, that's profoundly important. But for the average person, it really is an awestruck material. All right. Now, politics. No, it's business politics, though. I'm not going to get into the political politics. I was going along pretty good and working with OCM Laboratories. And we filed our patents, and OCM made the material we sent to Giener Incorporated for fuel cell testing. And this company came from Oregon, Washington down and wanted to do some soil analysis at John Sickafus' laboratory. So he started working for them also. After about 4 or 5 weeks, he comes to me and said, Dave, they've got the same stuff in their ore that you have. And he says, you guys really ought to get together because they have a public company, they're backed by a public money. Anyway, it's called Legal and General Assurance. And everybody in England knows who Legal and General Assurance is. We don't necessarily know them here, but they're a huge multi-billion-dollar company, an insurance company. Anyway, a fellow by the name of Clayton Stokes got chummy in a bar with this fellow Peter Simon, who's the investment chairman for Legal and General's investments. And he got chummy with him, but it really was a guy promoting, trying to get in a position to get money from Legal and General. Now, I'm telling you this because this is my opinion, okay? He got Peter Simon to invest many, many, many millions of dollars with Clayton Stokes and allowed him to invest and get into like 12 different mining properties here in the United States. One of them happened to be with Joe Champion up in Oregon. That was what they were working on when they came down to work with John Sickafus. John says, you ought to get together with them. So I met with them. We entered into a partnership at their insistence where we would work together and they could share this knowledge that I and John had developed for analyzing their ore also. But they never could share the information about me or any of my work or any of what I was doing publicly, and they never could release any of it without my written consent. Only way I'd work with them. So we started working together. Before long, and it didn't take just a few years, they were literally lost all their other investments. However, Clayton Stokes owned an island in Majorca, and he came from South Africa with nothing. He bought an island in Majorca. He drove a Bentley Turbo R. You know, I don't know if you all know Turbo R. It's a really like $300,000 machine. He asked me and my wife to come over to England. He drove us around his big motor car, you know, driving 80, 90 mile an hour down the road. Takes you to all these ritzy places and clubs where he's in, you know, and, you know, putting on the airs with us. My wife, she's a very private person. She did not like this at all. She was nice, but afterwards she says, Dave, I just don't like this. It's just not what I want to do. Anyway, they lost all their other investments. Peter Simon was really in hot water with Legal and General Assurance. They had dumped so many millions into this Clayton Stokes, and it all was gone, all in Clayton's pocket, and nothing working as far as a business. They said, we've got to save our company, and the only way you can do that, Dave, we have to be able to talk about what we have done with you. And I said, well, fellas, I will not allow an investigation or an evaluation. And they want to do an evaluation of my work. And I said, I will not allow an evaluation of my work to be performed by some university professor. Somebody just read about this in a book. If you want to evaluate me and my work, years of work here, it has to be by somebody who's literally had rolled up their sleeves and had hands-on experience in this area. Not somebody's read theoretical papers, but somebody's actually done it. Somebody's actually refined rhodium and iridium and platinum and palladium and gold. You know, somebody had done it. This was being written for Legal and General. This is an evaluator that's paid for by Legal and General to evaluate what they're involved in, and they wanted to release it publicly so their stock price would be great and they would show to have made a good investment. I looked at this and said, guys, I'm not comfortable releasing this to the public. I could have made a fortune here, people, but it wouldn't have been fair to the general public because it isn't telling the truth. I know it's the truth, but the people wouldn't have understood the truth. They wouldn't understand it correctly. I probably, with 45% of the shares, could have walked away with probably $200–300 million. Okay? And I said, no, we're not going to release it. Legal and General, particularly Peter Simon, they eventually fired him. He no longer is the head of investments at Legal and General Assurance. Legal and General shut off all money to Clayton Stokes. And poor Clayton Stokes, I think, is back in South Africa now, doing what he was doing before. We have done thermogravimetric analysis on all of the elements. All of them require at least 200 to 250 degrees centigrade before they will flux flow. And this is really critical, people. You need to understand that when I say in my patent application, it's like a resonating material resonating in 2 dimensions, like a superconductor, I don't really claim it is a superconductor. If you could take the copper out, of yttrium barium copper oxide and set it here on the table, take another copper out, set it on the table, take another copper out, set it on the table, and it did not go back to a metallic state, they would literally be like this material. They're resonating in 2 dimensions, but they're not really flux flowing. You understand that a single atom cannot flux flow. It only can resonance connect with another atom. It's only when the flux flow occurs that it really is superconducting. My material, when it loses weight and becomes a white powder, is like a superconductor. It is resonance coupling with the other atoms next to it, but it's resonating in 2 dimensions only, not 3, but only 2, but it is not flux flowing. When the flux flow starts is when you start getting these spikes like this. That's flux flow. Okay, that's when literally light is flying inside the superconductor. So the initial formation of the Ormus material, it is not a material resonating in 3 dimensions, only resonating in 2 dimensions. It weighs 5/9 of the true metal weight, and it is not really a superconductor, but it can superconduct. And I really want that to be clear, people, because people say I claim it as a superconductor. I'm not really claiming it's a superconductor. I'm claiming it is a superconductor-like coupling, but it's not really a superconductor until the flux flow occurs. The one thing that is really profound about this material that is exactly like a superconductor is a single atom cannot be seen by any analytical instrumentation, even neutron activation. And a neutron activation is sending a high-energy neutron into the sample. A neutron doesn't have a charge, but a neutron does have a spin on the neutron. And a superconductor is so sensitive to magnetic fields that the spin on the neutron is deflected by the superconductor. You cannot analyze a superconductor when it is superconducting because the energy can't get to the atoms themselves when it's superconducting. Our material, each atom is like a superconductor, is invisible to all instrumentation that does analysis that I know of today when it's in this white state. Okay, this is really a key piece of information. I want you people to profoundly understand this, okay? When the flux flow occurs, then it is superconducting, okay? Then it truly forms a Miser field around the whole system, and then it literally starts weighing too much or too little. But when it's resonance coupling, it just loses weight. It loses 4/9 of its weight when it's resonating in 2 dimensions. It's only when the flux flow commences after everything is arranged, after everything is annealed and in proper position, then it can superconduct. Depending on the element, the temperature is varying.